right, we'll return to our open meeting tonight with our opening exercise. Dr. Zambezi, our pledge.
Members of the board, thanks for having Lovejoy High School out tonight to say the pledges. I'd like to introduce two of our students. Kugu Scott is in 11th grade. She has been attending Lovejoy since the 9th grade and has one sibling. Kugu is the president and founder of the UNICEF Unite Club and plans to volunteer with the SOS Children's Village after high school. Next is Judson Thompson. Judson is in the 11th grade as well. He has been attending Lovejoy since kindergarten and has 4 siblings. Judson enjoys being a part of our Lovejoy football and wrestling programs and plans to attend college after high school. I'm going to hand it off to Judson to lead us in the U.S. pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now for the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. And for a moment of silence. Thank you.
All right, next up tonight, item 6, our celebration of learning. Dr. Lori Tinsley.
Good evening. I am thrilled tonight to recognize some of our student athletes through our Special Olympics program and our PALS program tonight. And I want to introduce Mrs. Allison Clonch. She is our Director of Special Education here in Lovejoy ISD. So she's going to take it from here.
All right. Thank you so much for having us tonight. We had 29 absolutely amazing athletes that competed within Special Olympics this year. We did basketball skills, which included dribbling, shooting, a basketball catch, and a targeted pass. And then our students, that was earlier February-ish, our students moved on to track, and we actually just competed in track the last 2 weeks. They had different types of races where they were walking, running, dashing, and then there was a relay that we did with some of our other students. There was throwing. They threw tennis balls, softballs, and then the javelin, and then they competed in the long jump. We are super excited that next year we're adding bocce ball for the fall. That will be our fall sport. But we had the most amazing time. There's some pictures of basketball skills, and then some pictures of our track athletes, and they came home with all sorts of gold, silver, and bronze. So we've got some certificates for them. I also want to recognize and celebrate our PALs and our PAWs. These are students that work with our kiddos on a daily, weekly basis. They were integral in coming to our basketball skills competition as well as our track competition. And there's some great pictures. If you are a PAL or a PAW, would you please come on up to the front so that we can recognize you? Yay! And then if you were a coach for Special Olympics, will you come on up? Coach, teacher. And so I'm going to say each of our student athletes that are here, I'm going to say your name, and if you'll come up the middle, you are, we've got a certificate for you, and then we're going to take some pictures. I wrote the names down. Yeah. All right. Trey Tassin, if you will come on up, bud. Harper Jones, go on up. All right, Mr. Grayson Blummer, come on up. From Willow Springs, Jonathan McGill. Miss Elizabeth Wood. And they all wore their medals, so check those out. And Mr. Timothy Burchett, come on up. From the high school, Matthias Jackson. Dallas Paquette. And Nash Cheeseborough. We celebrated these athletes last week at our Special Olympics banquet, and it was absolutely amazing. And so thank you for having us tonight. One more round of applause.
Thank you for that. That's going to be hard to top. We appreciate everything everybody did to make that possible and to recognize those students. Next up is recognitions. Ms. Koenig, Teacher of the Year.
Yes, that is going to be hard to top, but we have some wonderful educators here. I think tonight's my favorite night of the year. We're going to recognize first our campus Teachers of the Year. So I'm going to ask Dr. Zambezi, would you first come up and introduce your Campus Teacher of the Year for Lovejoy High School, and we have something for that person. We're going to call them up individually, and then we'll name our secondary Teacher of the Year for our district and our elementary Teacher of the Year for the district.
All right. At the high school, we are so lucky to have Miss Kelly English as our Teacher of the Year. Miss English earned a Bachelor's of Science in Exercise and Sports Science with a focus on education from the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor in 2010 and got her Master's in C&I from Texas A&M University in 2017. During her 14 years of experience, Miss English taught multiple math courses across all grades. She began her teaching and coaching career at Moody High School near Waco. While there, Miss English taught math models, Algebra 2, Pre-Cal, geometry, and coached volleyball, basketball, and track. She relocated to Lovejoy High School in 2012 as a teacher and coach. While at Lovejoy, English has taught Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Pre-Cal, algebraic reasoning, math models, AQR, and senior level advanced quantitative reasoning known as AQR. She also serves and does a wonderful job as our math department lead at Lovejoy High School. Kelly English, Lovejoy Teacher of the Year.
Yay! Thank you. Okay, next, Ms. Eldridge, would you come up and introduce the Willow Springs Teacher of the Year?
It is my joy to recognize Miss Emily Peabody for Willow Springs Teacher of the Year. Miss Peabody teaches 7th grade Texas history. She is the kind of teacher who exemplifies what it truly looks and sounds like on a daily basis to help lead students for high levels of learning where all truly means all. She does not allow students to give up on the content or on themselves. She carries herself with joy, professionalism, and love for her students and her colleagues. She makes Texas history come alive. She is one of the first staff members to step in to help other teachers on the team and anyone in the building who ever needs support or encouragement. Thank you, Emily, for being who you are.
Ms. Rollins.
Good evening. I'm Megan Rollins, principal at Sloan Creek Intermediate School. It is my pleasure and joy to introduce Mr. Ryan Rollmeyer as the Sloan Creek Teacher of the Year. Ryan teaches 5th grade social studies, and he is an appointed team leader, but also a natural leader, and he does teach way more than social studies. Ryan, Mr. Rollmeyer, is a kid magnet. Any kid who has ever been in his class absolutely adores him. I've never heard otherwise. He actually, the last 2 serves of our volleyball game today, he won the game for the staff, so we are so proud of that. Ryan, thank you so much for the incredible impact that you have on our students at Sloan Creek, and I know you serve students outside of school as well, so thank you so much for everything that you do. We're proud of you.
Thank you. And now for Custer Elementary, Ms. Holly Haynes, if you would come up.
Lana Jasper, come on up here. It's my pleasure to introduce Lana Jasper, 4th grade Reading, Language Arts, and Social Studies teacher as our Puster Teacher of the Year. And I'm just going to read the little blurb that was included in her nomination. Lana is a calm presence for her team and her students. She has fostered a classroom community that trusts each other year after year. She is intentional in every comment and interaction that she has with students, truly finding those teachable moments. She meets challenges head-on with a growth mindset and is a true blessing to her students. She truly is a beautiful human inside and out, and I admire her, and she is most deserving of this recognition tonight.
Thank you, Lana. And Ms. Acosta from Hart Elementary.
In a profession where dedication, passion, and resilience are the cornerstone of success, it's truly an honor to recognize Miss Wendy Hebert, Hart Elementary's music teacher, who embodies these qualities in every facet of her work. She has 25 years of teaching, 14 of them being in Lovejoy. Miss Hebert wants to instill in her students that learning is a lifelong journey and will tell you her why for teaching is to give all kids a place to belong. In honor of her, I want to read what her nominee shared, because I think it's fitting of her. Miss Hebert has the biggest heart for each of her students. She involves students with every ability in music and meets them where they are to share her love of music. Miss Hebert definitely embodies the Lovejoy core values. She takes the time to build relationships with each child she encounters, and she makes the quiet kid feel as if they were the loudest kid in the room. She helps the kids learn and builds their confidence through praise and setting them up for success. She's an amazing collaborator and willing to participate in helping build programs for each of them. Wendy focuses on students' abilities and what they can do rather than any differences. She is compassionate, she sees a need and finds a solution so that all students' needs are met. Miss Hebert gets results through her creative and engaging lessons. This teacher has had the privilege of supporting some students in her class and has witnessed firsthand how she pulls knowledge and encourages talent from the students. She has so much fun with her students that they don't even realize that they are learning. She goes above and beyond to make everyone that she meets feel loved and welcomed. Congratulations, Miss Hebert.
And these are our 5 Campus Teachers of the Year. They are also receiving a $250 gift card from Fogo de Chao. Thank you from the foundation and Fogo de Chao for donating those to each of them. We truly appreciate it. And now I'd like to name our district elementary teacher of the year. Our district elementary teacher of the year is Lana Jasper. We also tonight are naming our stay right there. We're also going to name our District Teacher of the Year for secondary, and that is Kelly English. Kelly, congratulations to you. I'm going to ask Mr. Brian Dale, would you please come up? We have a special presentation. Mr. Dale, of course, is Senior Vice President of the Commercial Bank of Texas, and he's presenting each of them with a check, each Teacher of the Year for $500. And also, thank you. We also have some other special guests here. There's more. Oh, the big ones. Yes, we want to make sure we have the big one. Yes. There we go. Glad you remembered that, Terry. Yeah. We also have Sewell here tonight. There's more. We have Mr. Ken Henry from Sewell BMW Plano. We have Mr. Garrett Weiss from Sewell Audi McKinney. And we have Miss Abby Klimnock from Sewell also here. And Mr. Henry, I believe you will be presenting Miss Lana Jasper a car to drive this summer, a BMW for the summer. And Lana, that's you. Also, Kelly, you're going to get to drive an Audi this summer. So we want to get pictures with you on those cars. And they also have for you, I believe, a $250 gift card to Rick's Chop House. So you are going to have a fun summer. We want to thank Sewell also for donating the cars and the insurance and everything for our teachers and Teachers of the Year. We do appreciate that. And Mr. Dale, thank you also. Okay, we get pictures. I know they're going to want to get pictures of you in the cars, ladies. I think Terry's following you out there. They're out there. The cars are out there. Oh, yes, and also your name is on the plaque. We've already had them engraved. That will go on the wall in the front office. So congratulations to everyone. This is always an exciting time and well-deserved by all teachers in Lovejoy ISD. We appreciate you all.
I want to say thank you, obviously, to all those recipients of those awards, but thank you to Commercial Bank of Texas, Brian Dale, and thank you to Sewell for the partnership and the community to support those educators. We greatly appreciate it. All right, student recognition, boys golf, boys and girls track and field, and UIL academics. Dr. Zambezi.
Yes, sir. Student recognitions tonight. Leading us off for boys golf will be Coach Mosley.
And Ben Muirhead was our guy that qualified for golf this year. I've had Ben in the golf program, I think, since his 8th grade year, and he kind of turned himself into full-time golf midways through his sophomore year, and it's been a great decision because he's just been an excellent team leader. He was first team all-district, he was first team all-region, and as a state qualifier. And I will say that as his finish at state this year, when I started going back and looking at numbers, where he shot 81.78 this year, that was a 42nd place. But just 5 years ago, that would have been good for 30th place. So the competition in the state is just unreal. But we've been extremely blessed to have Ben, and he's been a tremendous captain, and we just can't say enough about him.
Next up for student recognitions, representing academic UIL and computer science, I'd like to introduce Ms. Pam Ford.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Pam Ford. I teach computer science, and I'm the coach of the computer science team. And I would like to recognize all of the students in high school that actually qualified for state this year. Now, 3 of them can't be with us, but I wanted to recognize Catherine Smith, who scored second place at regionals in current events, and she participated in state. Now, the other 4 were on the computer science team. The computer science competition is in 2 parts. There's the written contest, and then there's the programming team contest. And the programming team consists of 4 individuals, and those 4 individuals, 2 of them are here tonight. So Josh James and Hannah Mao, come on up. The other 2 could not be here tonight. Go ahead and stand over there, unless your picture's over there, so don't stand in front of your picture. So the other 2 couldn't be here tonight, but the other 2 were Hunter Stark and Brady Kofel. Brady is one of our programming whizzes. He is one of the 3 programmers, along with Josh and Hannah, that go on and after the written test and compete in the programming competition. The programming competition is a 2-hour competition. They give the kids a packet of 12 problems, and it's how many you can solve in 2 hours, and they're worth 60 points apiece, and it's added to the written test. So first of all, I want to recognize Hannah Mao. Hannah's been on the computer science team for 4 years. We're really going to miss her this next year. She and Josh are both our team captains, and as team captains, they have been competing in these contests, solving these hard algorithms for 3 years, and they have taken it upon themselves to help and bring up our novices, our first-year programmers, so that they can be successful in later years. So they really have been the captains of the teams and leaders of the teams, bringing them up and teaching them these hard algorithms. Hannah has qualified for state for 3 years in a row for the written test. This year, she got first place in regional, and that qualified her for state, as well as on the computer science team for the programming competition. Next up, I want to talk about Josh James, one of our also co-leaders of the team. And he qualified for state on the programming team, which is the programming portion. And then when he got there and took the written test, he scored a perfect score, which actually gave him first place. So he is our state champion on the written test this year. All right, thank you, guys.
All right, next up, we have girls track and field and boys track and field. You will hear from Coach Littlefield regarding girls track and field, and then we'll take a picture, then we'll switch, and you'll hear from Coach Kelly regarding boys track and field for student recognitions.
Hello. I am going to call these girls up. Cameron Benson, she was 3rd at state in the 2-mile and 6th in the mile. Lauren, I'll say them all, and then you can clap for them at the end. Lauren Dolberry was state runner-up in the 4x400 meter relay. Kaylee Hornick, state runner-up in the 4x400 meter relay. Kaylee Littlefield, state runner-up in the 4x400 meter relay and in the 800 meter run. Sarah Moorfield, state runner-up in the 2-mile and 4th in the mile. And then Mia Ray, state runner-up in the 4x400 meter relay. Now give them a round of applause. And as you can see, we brought home a lot of hardware, and these 6 young ladies right here standing before you scored enough points to be the state runner-up 5A in Texas, which is a really, really huge accomplishment for 6 girls. what they, I could go on and on, I won't, don't worry. But they had a lot of accomplishments, both at the district level, at the regional level, obviously at the state level. But more than that, just their work ethic, their character as people. We've got a lot of people up there that are pals and paws and NHS officers, and they're so active in the school. We've got people in theater and basketball and soccer, and they're just great young ladies who are a big part of our school, and I'm so proud of them in every way. And also, we just found out today that Kaylee Littlefield is the TGCA Track Athlete of the Year for 5A, 6A. And then Sarah was the cross-country Athlete of the Year for 5A, 6A. So that's pretty cool. So thank you all. I just want to also thank the board and the administration for always recognizing us. We really appreciate it. It's a great community to be a part of, and we appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right, for our boys state track and field team, our first recipient is Colson Adamson. He placed 7th in triple jump. Next, we have Will Carlson. He was 9th in the 1600 meter. Next, we have Caden Gary. He was our state runner-up in the 1600. And then we have Devin Moena. He was 9th place in the 800 meters. This is a really special group of guys that we have. This is probably the biggest group of boys that we've had at the state meet, and they did a phenomenal job this year. Colson, he's going to be going to Oklahoma State next year. He holds three school records. We have really big shoes to fill with him leaving. Will and Caden and Devin, they have done things this year that no one in our history of our school has done before. These guys are running some of the top times in the state of Texas. They're crushing our school records and just doing a phenomenal job for our program. And just like Coach Littlefield said, these guys are just high character guys. These guys are fully committed to the program and their sport. They do this year round. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't know, just the time and commitment that they put in. So I'm just super proud of you guys, and it's an honor to work with y'all each day. It makes it such a joy to come be a part of Lovejoy, and I just thank the community for your support, the parents. It's a special place, and let's give these guys a big hand.
Okay, more recognitions tonight. We have some community recognitions, the Greenie Awards. As you all know, the Green Team works as a partnership with our Lovejoy Council of PTOs. They are here to be more environmentally and financially sustainable by reducing waste and increasing reuse and recycling throughout the district. I'm going to introduce Michelle Wildes. If you will please, you're going to recognize our 3 community members there.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Michelle Wilde. I'm the founder of the Lovejoy Green Team, and I'm honored to present the... Sorry. Okay, better?
Yes.
Okay, I'm the founder of the Lovejoy Green Team. I'm honored to present the Lovejoy Green Team Greenie Awards to these very deserving recipients. The Greenie Awards are given each year to parents, teachers, administrators, or students who have gone above and beyond this year to help make Lovejoy cleaner and greener. Molly Collins is a Lovejoy parent. She joined the Green Team this year and dived in full force to help whenever and wherever needed. She's a member of the Green Team Planning Committee and was very instrumental in the rollout of recycling at Leopard Stadium and with various other Green Team events. Thank you, Molly, for all your hard work this year and for always having a smile and a can-do attitude. Nathan Schultz is a current 8th grader at Willow Springs and has been part of the Green Team since its inception in 2022. Nathan is a leader at Willow Springs to help students properly recycle. He was a workhorse at the football games to help collect recyclables, and he worked several other Green Team events this year. Nathan is a wonderful example of students taking pride in their campus. Thank you, Nathan, for being such an outstanding leader. Best wishes as you move to high school, and I'm looking forward to you bringing your leadership skills to the LHS Green Team Environmental Club next year. Gretchen Day is a Lovejoy parent. She was not able to be here tonight, but is also a Greenie Award recipient. We thank her for her hard work on the Green Team Planning Committee and for working many Green Team events for the past 2 years. Thank you.
Up tonight, item 8 is public comments related to May 20, 2024 agenda items. Rodriga Taylor.
This evening, we have 7 public comments, all related to agenda items. And give me just a moment here, and I'll pull up our timer. I think I lost it. We'll get it back. Thank you. And then as for community, I'll call your name in the order that I received them. First up, we have Terry Satterwhite regarding Title IX. Actually, give me just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and read our statement. Give me just a moment. Sorry about that. I'm pulling up our public comment statement.
Just want to make sure it works, yeah.
Go. All right. And this is for all public commenters. I'll read this brief statement and then we'll get on with the public comments. Any individual wishing to speak during public comment session of a regular board meeting must complete and submit the form no later than 15 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. Public comment cards must be completed in their entirety with accurate and truthful information and must designate whether the speaker is speaking on a specific agenda item. Failure to designate an agenda item relevant to the speaker's comments will result in the classification of the public comment as a non-agenda item. The board will provide speakers that submit a public card on an agenda item the opportunity to speak prior to the board's consideration of the time and the order in which they were received. Public comment cards are only applicable to the meeting in which they are completed and submitted by the established deadline.
Each individual gets one opportunity per meeting to share their comments with the Board of Trustees, not multiple opportunities per individual agenda items. If a speaker is not present when his or her name is called, the speaker forfeits the opportunity to speak at the meeting. The comments made by speakers at public comment reflect the opinion solely of the speaker and not of the trustees governing body as a district. All right, first up, like I said, we have Ms. Terry Satterwhite, and again, you have 3 minutes to speak, and I'll start the timer now.
Great, thank you. And I'm here to request that the board fully supports Citizens Defending Freedom, and they're asked to join Texas and ask that you join with them to protect our girls. I moved here from California, which is a public school system is complete Marxist indoctrination in all the schools. My daughter didn't want to leave. I did. And I chose this community. I chose Lovejoy because it was a conservative community, and it was very important to me that there weren't any ideologies or any hypersexualization going on. And so, as you know, or some of you might not know, they have transition closets at some of these schools where you go to school in one sex, and then when you're at school, you're a different sex. So basically, it's one of the most anti-parent states in the United States, along with New York and others. I believe this Title IX is a complete violation of women's rights, girls' rights to privacy. And I do think it will likely increase the incidence of events that have already occurred since my teenager has been at Lovejoy. I think that's very highly likely. My husband and I actually came and had a meeting with Dr. Zambiasi, and when we talked to him about the bathroom issue, he said that there's really an unwritten school policy for males that cannot enter the female restroom. It's not in writing, but it's unwritten, or boys and the girls. It, to me, seems that it's clear that you're choosing money over the safety of our girls, and if you're not going to stand up and fight for our girls. As Governor Abbott stated, please stand up for our children's rights and do not agree to this executive order. If it is fear of being fined or not receiving federal funding, then I think most people here would agree that we need to put our foot down now or risk harm to our girls that have biological boys in the locker rooms and bathrooms. Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is Shannon Ayers regarding Title IX. And then as you come up, I'll have you state your name, address for the public.
Shannon Ayers with Citizens Defending Freedom. I'm here tonight.
Oh, Ms. Ayers, and your address, please.
It's on the card. I don't want to say that publicly.
Public comments must be addressed as written in the procedures. Name and address.
Did Terry give her address? Terry, did you just give your address out loud?
Okay. All right. Yeah, it is. Okay, let me see. Okay, so Ms. Ayers, you're at 6043
So
Star
you're gonna
Mesa.
Wow.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and start your time now. Thank you.
Shannon Ayers with Citizens Defending Freedom. I'm here tonight to address the potential effects of the recent changes to Title IX that were unilaterally and unconstitutionally enacted by the Biden administration. To inform this board and the parents of Lovejoy ISD of the latest developments regarding these changes, both in Texas and in other parts of the country. And finally, to ask for unanimous action by this board that will protect the young girls entrusted to your care while in school. So what will happen if Lovejoy ISD enacts these new rules? First, it will force you to admit biological males identifying as females to girls' sporting events or face boundless civil rights lawsuits. It will force you to replace a student's biological sex with his or her gender identity when deciding which pronouns to call them, which bathroom he or she uses, or which athletic team he or she participates in. It will erode student privacy by permitting biological males to undress in otherwise sex-separated intimate facilities reserved for biological females. And it will systemically disadvantage female students in schools now forced to compete against biological males identifying as women in those sports competitions. Obviously, the effects of these changes will be devastating for our young girls and will completely negate the original intent of Title IX, which was to protect them and allow them opportunities that they didn't have before. The unlawful action by the department denies women and girls in your school district the legal protections that the United States Congress intended to give them. Fortunately, Governor Abbott, Attorney General Paxton, and the Texas House of Representatives agree. The question is, do each of you? On April 29th of this year, Governor Abbott instructed the TEA not to comply with Title IX changes set to take effect on August 1st of this year. Also on April 29th, Attorney General Paxton filed a lawsuit against the department, as well as alleging violations of the Administrative Procedure Act for circumventing congressional approval and disregarding the original statutory intention of Title IX that accords with a meaning of sex that was widely understood and accepted to be binary and biological at the time Title IX was originally enacted. Finally, your local state representative, Candy Noble, has publicly denounced the sweeping changes made to Title IX without congressional approval. It's worth noting that Texas is just one of 22 states that have filed lawsuits. In Louisiana, at least 17 school districts have joined the state-led lawsuit against the Department of Education. So I urge Lovejoy ISD to follow suit and take a strong stance for the state of Texas and the community you serve by passing a resolution of disapproval for the unconstitutional modification to Title IX and by joining the Texas lawsuit to protect women and girls as intended by Congress when they passed Title IX. This resolution has been provided to you by our CDF lawyer in an email today, so you already have that. And I just urge you to take these actions. They would go a long way in proving to the girls in LISD that you value their safety over money. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Our next public comment is Jason McLaughlin. Jason McLaughlin. And as you are coming up, I will ask that you state your name and address for the record, Mr. McLaughlin.
Howdy. Hello. I'm Jason McLaughlin, Honeysuckle Lane in Lucas, 20 years.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and start your time now.
Thanks. The Foundation for Lovejoy Schools involves the community in generating and distributing funds, property, and gifts that enhance the educational experience in Lovejoy ISD. I'm pretty sure we also all know what the mission is of the PTO and its various councils and individual school-based organizations. First, I want to say thank you. The PTO and the foundation organizations are absolutely awesome. Lovejoy is a special place in part because of those two organizations. Over the past 20 years of being a Lovejoy district resident, putting 3 of my children all the way through school from kindergarten through graduation, now more than ever, there is a growing gap in district representative access to the Board of Trustees. We can blame policy, we can blame TASB, we can blame bureaucracy, but the gap is very real. I, along with others, are planning to create a newly formed organization and would like direct access to liaise with the Board of Trustees in the exact manner that the foundation and the PTO has and does. Nothing new, nothing special, just the same liaison assure, if that's even a word, as the PTO and the foundation currently enjoy. This is a public request to ask the trustees how this can be done and what is required to create a third organization of liaison with the board of directors and trustees within PTO or within Lovejoy ISD, and what we need to do to make that happen. My understanding also too, the meeting tonight is where you guys assign those liaisons and affirm that for the next coming year. Once our organization is created, based on however you tell us how to do that and what the requirements are, we're hoping that we can get a special liaison assigned and not have to wait until next May for that to happen. Thank you for all you guys do. We love Lovejoy, and go Leopards.
Thank you. All right, our next public comment is Grace McLaughlin, and this is also regarding Title IX. And then, Ms. McLaughlin, as you're on your way up, I'll have you state your name and address for the record.
Hi, everyone. I'm Grace McLaughlin. I live on Honeysuckle and Lucas.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and start your time now.
I'm here to talk about Title IX. I grew up in Lovejoy, and I played for their volleyball team. I graduated in 2021. I now am a student athlete at Houston Christian for their D1 program. And I think that I didn't think I'd ever speak about this issue because I didn't think this would ever come to be a thing. But my experience as an athlete and as a female athlete would have been significantly different if this were to pass. It'll change the dynamic of the young girls that are coming up through Lovejoy, and they will not have the same opportunities and experiences that I did, and with all my other fellow teammates that they had as well. And other sports, like it's not just volleyball, it's everything. And it's more than just sports. It's the right to privacy and like your own, knowing that you're safe in bathrooms and locker rooms, that will be completely violated. And there will be so many more open doors that you can't shut once you pass this. And so I'm urging you guys to please, please listen to the girls who have gone through your program and who have had the experience of being an athlete, and to reject this because it'll change so much and will not be beneficial for Lovejoy. So take a stand, please. Thank you.
All right, our next public comment is Connie Marshall. Connie? And this is regarding Title IX. And Ms. Marshall asks that as you approach the mic, you state your name and address for the record.
My name is Connie Marshall. I live on Forestry Drive in Lucas.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and start your time now.
And I just want to say, my children went all through Lovejoy, and I never thought I would see the things I'm seeing right now. I'm just disgusted by some of the things that are going on through the Title IX. My daughter played high school soccer all through Lovejoy. She had a college scholarship, academic and athletic soccer in college. If she had had to compete with, it's an aggressive game, and they always got hurt. I can't imagine 205-pound biological boy running against her. She already got hurt some just playing against girls. I can't imagine a huge man. And I know that y'all were discussing that behind closed doors, and I guess you're afraid you might be sued if you don't go along with Biden's unconstitutional changes, but what he did was unconstitutional, and I guarantee you it will go to the Supreme Court if he keeps pushing it, and he will not win. So I think you want to be on the right side of history, not the wrong side of history. And if you have boys in the girls' restrooms, you will be waiting for a case of sexual assault, I guarantee you, one day, and that's what you should be concerned about. And I want to let you know, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. I want you to remember that. Thank you.
All right, and our next public comment is Lexi Collins. Ms. Collins? And Ms. Collins, as you approach the mic, I'll have you state your name and address for the record. And this is regarding Title IX.
Hello, my name is Lexi Collins. I live in Sasalgos in Wiley.
I'll go ahead and start your time now.
I did not ever intend to be here today to be speaking on this. I'm sure my attire speaks to that, but as a former student athlete at Lovejoy, as a former student at Texas Tech University, I feel that it's so important to speak on Title IX and to protect these women who are coming up through sports right now, especially in high school and in middle school. If men are allowed to compete with women, women will never gain the true female athlete experience. It will be open to anyone. And just because a man decides that he wants to compete as a woman does not make him a woman. That's why volleyball in particular has co-ed divisions, because they know that men and women jump higher, hit harder. It's completely different sports. And so for Lovejoy to stand by and to allow men to potentially play with women, women will not be given the opportunities that men will. And especially at the college level. I can speak on how men already get so many more opportunities than women under Title IX, as it was before everything that the Biden administration did. Men are allowed to get the NIL deals. They get all of the attention at football games. They get the packed houses, and women were barely scraping by with no attendance, with nothing. And so to allow it to happen in high school, to allow men to get a competitive advantage in women's sports, there's no point in women competing anymore. We have to protect these women, and we have to keep them safe on the gym, in the locker rooms, at all the time. So I urge y'all to protect these women. And as an older sister, my sister is at Lovejoy right now. She's about to be senior. The thought of men being able to come into her locker room is terrifying for me. So as someone who's been through it, with a perspective on the inside, I urge y'all to stand against this and to fight for the women at Lovejoy. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next comment is Mr. Daniel Bernal. Daniel? And Mr. Bernal, as you approach the mic, I ask that you state your name and address for the record. And Board of Trustees, this is regarding books in the library.
Danny Bernal, Patrician Court Fairview. Board, thanks for the time to talk about this issue. Let me just start by saying I'm a 9-year resident. The reason we moved here was the small town feel, the Texas values. That's what Lovejoy was to us from the outside. And in moving here, we've felt that for the last 9 years. Now, let me talk about the reason I'm here today. It's talk about dirty books in the library, okay? There's a lot of concerned parents that are worried about some of these things that are in these books that are pornographic. Cannot be stated at a meeting like this. However, kids could go check out these books. So it doesn't really make sense. The board policy, and I'd just like to read that real quick, board policy states that the district shall focus on maximizing transparency with parents and community members while meeting students' needs, and parental involvement in library acquisition, maintenance, and campus activities is encouraged. So that's right here in the parental involvement section. Now, unfortunately, parents have been making requests, talking about the books, and what I really find difficult is a parent had to come up and give a $400 check, $400 out of a parent's pocket to the school board to allow them to have access to some of this information. That doesn't sound like transparency to me. So I know a lot of people on this board have kids, and I'm sure that they really would not want their kids reading some of the things that are in those books. It's real clear. You know, we have small town values, we've got Texas values, and we've got kids that we've got to protect. So I truly am just hoping that it's a misunderstanding, that this parent will get their $400 back, because it seems a little overkill. They've jumped through the hoops, they've made the lists, they've made the requests, and all we want to do is what's right, is have a safe environment for these kids. So I'm just asking for the board to stand up and make sure that we don't have dirty books in our library. That's it. Thank you.
President Owens, that's all the public comments we have for this evening regarding agenda items.
Thank you. All right. Item 9 is to administer the oath of office to newly elected board members. Rodriga Taylor.
Good evening again, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Cordell. This evening, I will administer the oath of office to Position 6 and Position 7 of the board, and that is President Owens and Trustee James. As you recall, at the January 22nd, 2024 board meeting, the Board of Trustees approved the order calling the trustee general election to be held on Saturday, May 4th of 2024 for Position 6 and Position 7. The incumbents of the May 4th, 2024 trustee election were uncontested as of Tuesday, February 20th of this year. The administration recommended that the Board of Trustees cancel the May 4th, 2024 election, as the district would not have contested candidates on the ballot. The Board of Trustees approved the order to cancel the election. Therefore, all elected and appointed trustees shall take the official oath of office, and newly elected trustees shall follow their official oaths with the board president, according to BBBB local. We'll go ahead and start with Position 6, and that is Mr. James. Raise your right hand. Is that your right hand? And then repeat after me. I, Jason James.
I, Jason James,
Do solemnly swear.
do solemnly swear
That I will faithfully execute.
the duties of the office
Of the duties of the Lovejoy Independent School District, Position 6.
of the duties of the Lovejoy Independent School District, Position 6
Of the state of Texas.
of the state of Texas,
And will to the best of my ability.
preserve, protect, and defend
Preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
of the United States and of this state.
of the United States and of this state. So help me God.
Congratulations for another 3-year term.
Thank you.
And we'll grab a picture after.
All right.
And you'll raise your right hand.
Raise my right hand.
Correct.
Is that my right hand? I, Barrett Owens,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of the Lovejoy Independent School District, Position 7
of the Lovejoy Independent School District, Position 7
of the State of Texas
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States and of this state.
of the United States and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations on another 3-year term.
Thank you.
And we'll grab your picture too for the record.
All right, next up, consider an act on the 2024-2025 board officers selections. I would open that up for discussions or nominations.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Barrett Owens to serve another year as president for the Board of Trustees for Lovejoy ISD.
I'll second that.
Nomination made by Mr. Wood, second by Mark Wheelis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Let's see, Vice President, nominations.
I'll nominate Jeff Wood, the VP.
Nomination made by Mark Wheelis and second by Jason James. All in favor of Vice President Jeff Wood? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And now Secretary, please.
I'm going to nominate Amy Smith to be the secretary, and I just want to have a couple of comments in this nominating process of the board leadership and the officers have a responsibility and do a lot of hard work behind the scenes. And I don't know, the community doesn't always get to see that, but they've served in these roles as officers and done a great job. And so nominating them to do this again and continue to lead, I think, is great continuity for the district. So if Amy would accept that, I'd appreciate it.
We have a second? Our nomination, Mr. James, second. Marvin Bobo, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. So our newly elected officers are myself, President, Jeff Wood, Vice President, and Amy Smith, Secretary. Thank you all for your service and appreciate the board's support. Next up, item 11 is to consider and act on the appointment of a board member liaison to the Foundation for Lovejoy Schools. I would open that up for discussion. Mark, I believe, let's see, you were in this role last year. Any discussion, comments, thoughts of who might want to serve in that role?
Mark, you want to do it again?
I'd be glad to do it again.
Good discussion.
For those of you that don't know, Mark served on the foundation board prior to coming on, so the ability to communicate and connect with those folks is pretty easy and seamless, and so makes good sense. So we have a nomination by Marvin Bobo. Do we have a second? Second by Julie. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item 12, I would like to table. I'd like to have a bit more discussion with the PTO chairs before moving forward with this. This is a new liaison position that we were contemplating. It may or may not be needed or appropriate, depending. So we may bring this back next meeting, but I would like to table this if you guys are okay with that. I might just ask for a motion to table since I'm chair in a second.
I move we table item 12.
Moved Amy Smith. Second Julie McLaughlin. All in favor? Opposed? All right, item 12 is tabled. Item 13, please join me for a moment of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, so grateful to be in service to you, Lord. Thankful for the opportunity to be here before you, serving to our community and our students, our administrators and our staff. Lord, we're thankful and blessed with all these great celebrations tonight with the kids. We're thankful for the concerns, Lord, and we lift up this meeting tonight. We lift up all those we serve. We pray for wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and that you would just be with us in our endeavors. Watch over us and keep us safe and bless our families. In Christ's name, amen. All right, item 14 is board notifications. These are in your packet, new hires, resignations, and PIRs. Do want to make a comment on PIRs tonight, just for some clarity. PIRs are produced, and initially they are quoted based on what we believe the initial scope of a PIR might be. When we receive the actual PIR, then we reassess what that PIR might look like. Recently, we received one which been mentioned tonight, which once reviewed, comprised of over 9,000 pages and 59,000 items of content that needed to be reviewed prior to releasing. And so that is a substantial lift. It's not a lift that anyone can do. It has to be done deliberately to ensure that we don't violate any rules or laws. And we take that seriously as well. So PRs are an issue. They are the right of our public to have the information, and we're forthcoming with that. No problem, happy to do it. But it's also the volume of them has been substantial, and a lot of times it has nothing to do with Lovejoy. The other thing I want to mention is our library books. We have policies that empower our parents to take control and make decisions for library books. They have the ability to opt out of the titles that they don't want their students to be checking out. And it's real simple to do. We have a set of laws that we have to work through in the state of Texas that create a process that we have to follow to ensure that when we spend time reviewing books, that we can actually keep them out of the library so that they're not contested and so they don't end up back in there. We know of multiple schools around us who've taken actions without following the laws, who have now had to place those books back into their libraries forever. We're not interested in that process. So we're following the rules and the laws that our representatives and our senators and our legislators have put in place to ensure that when we do this work, that we can actually stand behind it. It takes time, and it takes folks to do that. So we are going to continue to follow the laws as they're written. We hope that that is reflective of the values of the community, because the community helps make those decisions. We have 2 parents, an administrator, and teachers serving in each book review to ensure that it's connected to both what the community wants and what we want. So I'd just call that to your attention as we talk about PIRs, about library books, about things like that, so that you understand some of the facts around the process versus what's not factual. So that's all I had on the notifications. Does anyone else have anything else in that regard? All right. Item 15 is our consent agenda. Anything you want pulled for review in the consent agenda? If not, I'd consider a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda, item 15.
So moved, Marvin Bobo. Second, Amy Smith. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. All right. Item 16, Professional Learning Communities Update. Dr. Lori Tinsley.
Thank you. I want to introduce some of our staff from Hart Elementary tonight. We are so happy to have them here. We have Shannon Acosta, our principal, Courtney Anderson, a first grade teacher, and Brittany Cruz, a second grade teacher. And the reason we wanted to give you an update tonight is you've heard us talk a lot about professionally learning communities and the work that we're doing here in Lovejoy ISD to work on collaboration, learning, and results. And you're going to actually see it in action tonight. So These ladies have presented some of this information to our Lovejoy 30 committee and also our Lovejoy leadership team. And so we got a lot of great feedback, so we were really excited that we could bring it to you tonight as the board. So I'm going to kind of frame this for you to kind of let you see how everything is connected. So last month I came to you about our new curricular resource system that is really a framework that we've created to ensure that we have a guaranteed and viable curriculum here that we're providing for our students and what our teachers can access. And within that resource, we have our scope and sequence for all of our core courses and our elective courses. We have unit planning guides that identify our TEKS, which are our standards that we're charged to teach by the state for each course. We've included research-based instructional strategies and practices. We've identified what our primary instructional materials are to execute the learning. We've embedded assessment resources and also built-in strategies and resources for intervention, enrichment, and extension. So we presented this to our teachers this month, knowing what's coming forward for them for the fall, and they're super excited, the feedback that we've received. This has kind of probably been a long time coming, is bringing it all together. Just a reminder, what I told you, how we do build the curriculum resource system. We take our Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, instructional resources. We have a system called the TEKS resource system that helps us with our scope and sequences. We have curriculum writers, which are our teachers. And then we also utilize our teacher vertical teams that we've had in place for the last couple of years to advise and provide us guidance on what they need in the classroom as well. Then also as a reminder, we implemented a balanced assessment plan. And this is just that visual that I've shared with you many times about layers of how we assess students. So that's just part of the learning cycle. So formative assessments are those check-ins to see how our kiddos are doing. Interim assessments are more like semester exams, district benchmark, our MAP growth testing that we've been doing, and then our summative are those state exams and SAT and PSAT that our students take. So professional learning communities, in your board book, you were provided what we have designed is our beliefs and our fundamental beliefs, what we see as what we believe in of how we're going to operate as a learning community. And we've identified 3 areas: learning. So this outlines what we are committed to as a district to ensure how we are behaving and conducting ourselves on how we're supporting students. Also included in that is we've defined collaboration and what that means for us here in Lovejoy ISD and how we work together within our schools. And then, of course, results and how we use data to inform instruction and be part of the learning process. That was rolled out through what we call our guiding coalition, which each campus has a guiding coalition that's made up of teachers and campus administrators, and they help support this work on the campuses. So I want to introduce the HEART team here, and they're going to talk about how this is being implemented at HEART Elementary.
Thank you, Dr. Tinsley. Thank you, board, for giving us this opportunity to share the great work that HEART is doing. Very proud of this team that is going to present to you tonight that is going to embody a lot of what Dr. Tinsley just shared with you. HEART is committed to, first and foremost, relationships. Without the relationships, learning can't occur, and we know that. So our teachers are working really hard on building those relationships and focusing on student growth. One of the main focuses that we've really embraced is collaboration, and in order to work as a team, so like what we say, you don't get the teacher lottery, you just get the best of everyone at HEART. And these ladies are really going to be able to share with you how they have made that come truly to life. We have focused this year really with building those relationships through our morning meetings, through small group instruction. We've done a lot of work on how we really target our small groups using the data, using what our students need, as well as using the strengths of our staff. We've really focused on writing across all content areas. We know that that's an area that STAR has embedded, but more importantly, we want kids to see that writing is a part of their daily life, not just taught in isolation. We have really leveraged our MTSS lead, Ms. Hicks. Not only does she pull small groups, she has really embraced the learning community by coaching our teachers, going into classrooms, modeling, providing feedback, and actually working specifically on goals that the teachers have set across the campus as well as individually. she has made a tremendous impact and has already thought about where she can take the learning into going into next year with the new curriculum documents. So we are very blessed to have Ms. Hicks as part of a student-led group, as well as empowering our teachers to take learning and take them to the next step. And so first, I'm going to let, I think it's Ms. Cruz, share her goals and what she's really worked on and how it's trickled down into other staff.
Hi, good evening. I'm Brittany Cruz. I teach math and science, third grade. So a couple things I've been working on in my classroom is the way that I deliver instruction. I have found that whole group instruction doesn't always work. I have two very different classes and with children with all different kinds of needs. And so I reached out to Whitney Hicks and I was like, this is not working. Whole group instruction is not working for my kids. I am not going to be able to get them where they need to go in a year's time. And so she sat down with me and she was like, you look at your data all day long. She's like, why don't you try to teach it into small group? And I was like, that sounds crazy. I don't know if I can do that. I teach in whole group. And she's like, it'll be fine. You'll be fine. And so I did that. I looked at my data. I split my kids into two groups and then we sat up a routine of what it looked like. So I had kids who would be in a small group circle with me, like 7 or 8 kids, and the other kids would be out in what I call station land. And so we talked about what that would look like and sound like and what their roles and responsibilities were. And we just had that mutual understanding of they were going to do what they were supposed to do because I knew that the kids with me had a job. And so 15-minute small group lesson with my friends down, digging deep into the dirty work of the standards. And then when that time was up, I would send those kids off to work independently or with a partner. And my new group would clean up their stations and come immediately ready to do the work and learn. And it's just been really, really beneficial. Third grade is difficult. It is a hard grade, and I push my kids very, very hard because I know that they can reach all the things that they want to. So one thing I brought this today, in stations, I like my stations to be differentiated for students to meet their own needs and have a place, a safe place to where they can fill their own gaps without me having to push it on them. And so fluency is a huge thing. Multiplication and division, they got to memorize those facts, and at some point you just have to memorize them. So a couple different games that I have. This one is kind of like for some lower level kids who maybe are still working on just their facts. It's like Foursquare or Connect Four. They just have to roll the dice and find their product and cover it up. Then it gets a little bit harder to where they roll the dice and they give themselves a product and they have to find the two factors that will make that product. So it's just a little step above. And then lastly, a 2x1 multiplication. We teach them a 2x1, but we don't expect them to have it mastered by third grade because they will continue learning that in fourth grade. So it gives my kids the option of, we know we're going to work in a fluency station, but I get to pick the level of hardness that I want. And so my kids really enjoy it. Games are always fun, and you can't go wrong with that. The other thing that I have done this year is I have been to all of the MAP training through the district, and I'm so empowered by it, and I come out of the trainings just fired up and ready to go do some really great work. But when we first administered MAP, my kids were like, I have no idea why I'm doing this. I don't know what any of those numbers mean, and I don't know why this test is so hard. So we just talked about how MAP growth is a continuous, ruler. It's a measuring stick, and every year they grow taller, and when they go to the doctor they get taller. So when they go to third grade, they're going to get a little taller than second grade. When they go to fourth grade, a little bit taller. So all we're looking to do is to see that each and every time we take this really hard test, that they just get a little bit taller. So what we did is at the middle of the year, I was like, you know what, my kids need to be empowered. They need to want to do their own learning. So I sat down with 39 kids one-on-one, and we talked about what they felt that they were really good at and what they wanted to be better at in third grade. And I gave them that power of, how are we going to get there? What do you need from me as your teacher? What do you need from you as the student? So we made some goals. I told them where they started the year, that number on the ruler. I told them where they were at in the middle of the year, and they saw that their growth. There's also something with MAP testing. It's called a projected growth. That's where MAP is saying that they should be by the end of the school year. So in the middle of the year, I had a very good chunk of kids who had already met that goal, and they were like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And I was like, you should be, but you're not done. I was like, here's where you're at. I was like, you already met that goal. And I was like, now I want you to tell me where you want to be in May. And so I had kids really have to think about it and how can I get there? I know that test is hard. And so they set a new goal. We marked out that projected growth. We put a new goal on there. And so we will be meeting in the next couple days as the year has been wrapped up to see them succeed in that. I did have some kids that were really, really close in the middle of the year, but they were not discouraged at all. They were like, I'm so, so close, and I just have to do a couple more little things. And it wasn't anything that they didn't think they could do. I did have some kids that felt like they were a long way off. And I was like, look, it's fine. It's January. I still have to teach till May. You still have to learn until May. And I was like, so what are we going to do in those 5 months? And they were like, okay, so I can do this. So my kids just walked away from that 5 to 10 minute meeting with me. I felt their empowerment and their knowing that they could do whatever they put their mind to. And it's just been very beneficial. And my kids are reaching goals that I don't think that they thought that they could reach. But here they are just knocking it out every day. So it's been beautiful. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Courtney Anderson, and I teach first grade at Hart. I just kind of want to talk to you about where we started with PLC and kind of, we've made so much growth with it, but we're still just at the very beginning and where we plan to go from here. So in my slides, you can see in the first one, the very first place I feel like as our team, as a team, we really dove in with PLC was phonics because we were so fortunate in Lovejoy to be trained with science of reading in a very unique way, much different than other districts around us were training their teachers with it. And my team and I just dove headfirst in and couldn't get enough. And so really those strong collaborative conversations really took off with that. And phonics, our phonics kind of curriculum, because we didn't really have a real solid one at that point, really grew through that collaboration. And so you can kind of see now I just pulled some examples of low, medium, and high students and where they're performing now with their spelling and their writing. And that is truly just a testament to what collaborative planning looks like. We say PLC, we say all the things, but that is what PLC looks like, is just this tremendous amount of growth that we've seen in our kids. And so that was super exciting. But then this year we've added another element with Branching Minds, which is a program where we can collect data. And so we implemented this year sharing of kids through our Leopard time. And one thing that's a little bit frightening for teachers is when we start sharing kids, we lose a little bit of the control of the data and making sure that our babies really are getting where we want them to get. But we also know that our teammates are amazing, and we really do want to let go of that teacher lottery. We want every student to get the best of us with whatever their needs are. So my strengths may not be the best fit for this student at this point in the student's life or, growth of first grade. And so there might be another teacher that is really strong in that area, and maybe I can help in a different way. And so through Branching Minds, we were able to collect data across the entire grade level. So I can pull a group of students to work with me, work with them in guided reading or in small group instruction, phonics instruction, and then collect that data so that when then I, as the homeroom teacher, meet with parents in meetings or in kid talks or whatever, all of that data is right there. It has stayed with the student as opposed to belonging to the teacher. It's that student's data. And that student can continue to grow and grow and grow with whichever teacher is strongest in the area of that student's needs. So it really does totally take away the teacher lottery, and also really does really force us to truly live what we're saying, that these are all of our kids. They truly are all of our kids. They may be on my homeroom list, but every single first grade teacher is responsible now for getting that child to where their greatest potential by the end of the year. So that has been truly incredible. And then the other great thing about that, in one of the slides, it shows that by doing that too, we can meet the needs of more students every single day. So for example, right now, I might have a group with 1 or 2 students because that's all that I have on that level at this time. But by sharing kids and then sharing the data through Branching Minds, we can distribute the numbers more evenly, which will allow us to see not only more students each day, but more students each time of the week. So it really does truly meet all students where they are. It truly does allow us to continue to grow them for the entire year as far as their potential will allow them to go. And it absolutely does take away that teacher lottery and makes them just they really are all of our kids. So we're super excited. Next year, our plan, this year we've done it with Leopard Time. Next year, our plan is to take it into guided reading, and our first grade team is going to really latch onto that and truly make it just, our day. These are our first graders and not Miss Anderson's first graders. So we're very excited about where we're headed.
And Miss Baker couldn't be with us. Miss Baker is one of our fourth grade RLA teachers, and she really worked hard on conferring and making sure that she really knew the needs of her students as readers and that she could give them exact strategies on what that student needed in real time. And being able to watch Miss Baker actually do a conferring lesson, I was supposed to be in there only for 15 minutes, and I looked at my clock, and it was like 45 minutes later, and I'm like, oh, I really don't want to go. And so when she actually got to present and show at our leadership Lovejoy, actually, Miss Anderson, I was like, you need to come check this out. You are not going to believe what she's doing with these fourth graders. And as soon as we left, Miss Anderson said, and I already took a nugget, and no, I'm implementing that in first. So on the next slide with Miss Baker, she spent a lot of time with her team, and so what they did was they took the data based on the standards that each kid maybe still needed some work on. And then in her conferring, they bring a book of their choice, what they are reading in that moment, and she'll ask them, so tell me something that is going well with you. Tell me something that you need help on. And I was particularly in there one time, and a student was reading a chapter book, and he goes, I'm just stuck. I don't know who the characters are, and I can't get past this. And she goes, okay, so what do you think we might need to do? And so she kind of gave some probing questions, but she put the learning back on him. And I'll tell you, at one point, I was like, I don't know if he's really going to use the strategy when she sent him off, because he was really reluctant. And so she did about 2 more conferring lessons, and I went and checked on that student, and there he was using the strategy she gave him with the sticky notes that you see, which are actual samples from the students. And she told him, I'm going to check on you in a little bit. Before she could even check on him, he noticed the student was leaving, and he came up and he's like, Miss Baker, look what I did. And he was so proud of himself. And I remember Miss Baker turning to me and going, in the past, I would have said, this is what you need to do. Let me tell you who all the characters are. She goes, but through my coaching and through the very specific way she does her conferring, she was able to put the learning back on that student. And so that's trickled through 4th grade. So I'm excited to see where we're going to go with conferring next year as it trickles down into our younger grades, because like even Miss Anderson said, they can do it. And here's another way that we've integrated writing, but they're excited on what they're doing. And she literally has a schedule on the board. And if she does not meet that schedule, those kids are on her going, Miss Baker, it is my time. I need to meet with you. And she's very strategic on her data, on how she uses it. So I'm really proud of this HEART team, because they've really embraced what it is to be a collaborative team. It takes trust. It's hard to send your kids out to someone else and go, it's going to be okay. But the kids are excited. It's not uncommon to see all these kids be bopping from door to door during Leopard Time, and we're excited to then transfer it into both math and reading workshop model next year. Do you have any questions?
Any question, board? Thank you very much for the presentation, ladies.
Thank you.
I just have a comment. Okay, y'all are amazing. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your open minds to not only optimize kids' growth, but your own growth. It's beautiful to watch. And when you say the word collaboration, when you were talking about your math game, I had the privilege to go to a Puster 3rd grade classroom, and they were doing the same thing. So when you're talking about collaboration, it's really deep-rooted, and like you said, you're doing that. And kids are benefiting. So thank you. Thank you for what y'all do. You're amazing.
Okay, Barrett. Yeah, one more comment. Just going to do a little plug here for Leadership Lovejoy. If you were a member of Leadership Lovejoy this year, you actually got to experience this real time. So you actually got to observe how these teachers worked with their students, and you can really see the kids lighting up about it. And I thought it was pretty amazing. I was grateful that I got to experience it. Very few times do I get to actually walk into a classroom and observe something that's going on. And they gave me a great presentation, and I walked away feeling very confident about what they were trying to do. So I wanted to also say thank you to these teachers for the work that they're doing.
All right. Item 17 is our District of Innovation Plan update.
Okay, wow. As a former elementary teacher, that was very, very impressive. And gosh, wow, this is boring compared to that. Yes, I want to talk to you about our District of Innovation Plan. As you recall, back in 2022, you adopted a District of Innovation Plan that was good for 5 years. So tonight, I just want to give you a presentation of what you adopted and possibly some changes that we may make. Travis and Kyle are going to help me with this as we get into this. As you recall, House Bill 1842 allowed us to become a District of Innovation, and we have some things that we can make some changes that are very similar to charter schools, or some gives us the same options there. Ours is good for 5 years. It expires on April 24th, 2027, and so since we're in between there, we can amend it if we need to. Our current exemptions that we have, and these were approved, as you recall, allow school to start before the 4th Monday in August. The second is the Campus Behavior Coordinator, and that designates more than one administrator to serve as the Campus Behavior Coordinator. And basically what that means, that's so that at the high school we have 4 assistant principals. They can also know their students by the alphabet and communicate behavior to the parents and build relationships there, and know the students a little bit more closely instead of just one campus behavior coordinator on the campus. We also had teacher certification, which permits the district to locally certify teachers in hard-to-fill areas, such as CTE courses, world language, et cetera. And that was one we're going to look at amending, and I'll get into that in just a moment. And then we have probationary contracts. And on a probationary contract, it basically says when a teacher comes into the district, their first year they're on a probationary contract. However, if they've taught 5 of the last 8 years, the second year they would go on a term contract. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that one too. This is all on our website, which we are required to keep on that, and also you can go to the TEA website. One of the amendments that we wanted to review and perhaps ask you to change is currently as far as certification. So currently we're looking at, we cannot DOI like a special education or bilingual students. That's not part of the DOI process. However, we could possibly DOI staff or teachers that are in specific fields. For example, currently we have a nurse that's teaching a CTE health class. Most nurses do not also get a teaching certification, okay? We also have a technical theater person that has different background than most teachers have. So those are staff members that we have DOI'd because they're professionals in the field and they have the history and the certifications and qualifications to teach those. What we are going to be asking for is that we also can look at certifications. And for example, this past year we had a situation, and I had that same certification. I have a 1st through 8th grade certification. So back in 1990 when I graduated, kindergarten was very different and 1st grade was. So many times we might ask a qualified teacher to teach kindergarten, but they don't have the 1st grade certification. Does that make sense? So we're asking that we look at and that we assess a teacher hired under this exemption and provides the necessary training, professional development that they could teach out of their grade level or out of their certification. So just something wanted to share with you. The next one is on probationary contracts, and currently you have already adopted this one, and this is changing a second-year probationary contract of a teacher that meets the rule of 5 of 8 to a 3rd year. So just changing it and giving us one more year. Sometimes teachers are hired mid-year, we don't get to know them as well, and this just gives us another opportunity on a probationary contract. So that's another one we would look at. This one I'm going to ask Kyle to come up and talk about. It's unauthorized persons on campus.
Good evening. So I'm just going to summarize the difference here, but if you look at TEA or TEC code 37.105, the newest version of that code requires that if we were at a school-related event, let's just say we're at Leopard Stadium and we've got students that are competing, and we have a spectator or someone that's causing a disruption, or maybe it's just a safety situation and we need that person to be removed. The newest version requires that we provide a written policy for them to dispute or to basically, if they wanted to dispute the removal, we would have to provide that to them prior to removal. So that's not something that's feasible for us. The very few times that we do need to exercise that action, we don't need to provide written documentation as to our appeal process. We can do that after the fact. And so that would be the exception that we would ask for tonight. Any questions regarding that? Thank you.
And I believe Mr. Zambezi had another one. And as tonight, we're just presenting these to you. We're not going to vote or consider any action.
Good evening. And so we're going to talk a little bit about House Bill 114, and that is the DAEP placement for vaping under Texas Education Code 37.006. It is a mandatory placement in a DAEP for a vape infraction. And so what we were looking at, what we're recommending is basically looking at, especially for first-time offenders of that rule, or of that law, looking at OSS or ISS as a possible conversation with our administrators in place of just a mandatory placement for vaping.
Question on that. Are we notifying this process? Maybe it's somewhere else. I mean, we should be, are parents notified of this? That's really more in
Yes,
their
sir.
lane.
Yes, sir. Good.
So as you can see, 2 would stay the same. We would amend 2 and then add 2 there. This would be our timeline. We reviewed the current DOI plan with the district improvement team, or DOI committee. So we have a district committee that we sent these to and proposed the DOI exemptions. They voted on the exemptions to amend the DOI plan. Tonight we wanted to review this current plan with you and inform you of amendments if they're approved. And then we would ask you on the 20th to vote them. There's still more in the process. Once or if you do amend the DOI plan, we would have to send that to the commissioner. We have to post it on our website and share it with TEA. And then those amendments would last until this DOI plan expired, which would be April 25th, 2026. Questions for me? Okay. Thank you.
Item 18 tonight's board workshop number 6. Mr. Willman.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Cordell. You're good. So tonight for Budget Workshop 6, we will be providing an update on the progress that we have made on the development of the 24-25 budget. So tonight we will share an update on some new factors that are impacting our budget. And then also looking to engage in conversation with the board relating to compensation. And then we'll wrap up the budget workshop with providing an update on our student nutrition budget. So make sure we're on the right slide. So throughout the process, we have shared some key factors that were influencing our budget. So we're aware of that with a basic allotment in our funding, we haven't seen an increase since 2019. We've also shared kind of our enrollment, our declining enrollment over the past few years, and then also the lower attendance. But some of the new things that have risen relating to our budget is the decrease in our federal funding. So we were aware early in the year of a change in the funding formula as it relates to our school health and related services, so our SHARS funding. And what that is that we submit for reimbursement for this federal funding for the service that we provide for our students. And this is based off of expenditures that are from the prior fiscal year. So our revenue budgets are set based off of what we anticipate to receive in reimbursement from the prior year. What we found in the current year that they were making a change and certain things were no longer allowable, which impacted our current year budget. We did file for an appeal, but we do believe that ongoing that these expenditures will no longer be allowable for reimbursement. So it'll have an impact to our budget annually of roughly $120,000. The second item is our federal funding is related to our Every Student Succeed Act, our ESSA funding. This is our Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV funding. Each one of those four components have different mechanisms that drive the funding. So Title II is mainly around professional development, and then Title III is associated with our English language learning population. But Title I and Title IV are tied to our low-income children. And based off of, and we found out about this on Monday, May 1st, or was it Monday? On May 1st. So this is fairly new to us. We found out from TEA that the population of low income is based on the poverty criteria and not free and reduced lunch. And the minimum requirement for the district, you'd have to have at least 2% in order to qualify for Title I and Title IV funding. We fell below that 2% and are currently at 1.67%. So our Title I and Title IV funding we will lose, and that amounts to about $70,000 annually. The resources that we're using for these, we do believe it is impactful to our schools and our students, and we will continue to absorb this cost in our general operating budget. Okay. And just to share again, we've shared this as far as throughout the process. When we initially kicked the budget process off, we were anticipating below 50 days. So we went to work and identified all these items that save us annually roughly $1.8 million, and cumulative over the 2 years, $3.6 million. So as far as the assumptions within our M&O budget, most of these are the same. What we've updated here, as we shared in the April board meeting, is that we increased the compensation for those employees on the teacher scale to receive a minimum of 4% increase, while the rest of our employees will remain and receive a 2% increase. The other piece that's in here that we're changing the way that we look at our days of fund balance. As you recall, in the April board meeting, we shared the property value and the fluctuation in the property value and the impact that it has on recapture. So how we're looking at it now and what we'll be presenting is that we're going to present the days of fund balance with the expenses net of recapture, so we can truly show our operating expenses since recapture is a flow through. We've highlighted the medical benefit contribution here. We have not considered anything within the model as it relates to the medical benefit contribution. We're going to share an update on kind of what we've learned about the medical benefits, and then hopefully engage in conversation with you all on how you would like for us to proceed as it relates to the medical benefits. I'm going to skip. So when we set out on the budget development process, we were aiming for a goal of getting to 90 days of fund balance in FY26 as we looked at our budgets over the 2 years. As you can see here, with everything that we have discussed with the change in the federal funding and the increase to 4%, net of recapture in FY26, we get to 89 days. I'm happy to share also that about 4:30 today, I received an email from TASB Risk Management. When they originally shared, they were anticipating a 35% increase in our insurance rate, our property insurance rates. I think it's roughly ended up only be about $20,000. So it's about $85,000 savings, which will get us to the 90 days. Excuse me. Yep. Well, no. But at least it's not the 35%. So earlier this month, we received notice as it relates to the TRS Active Care Plan. So we're anticipating rates will increase for the 24-25 year anywhere from roughly a little bit above 11% to 11.37%. And this is all depending on the plan that the employee chooses.
Thomas, for school districts, the TRS doesn't allow a self-funded medical plan, do they?
They do allow us for to explore and explore self-insurance. There's a deadline at which we have to announce that we want to move that. December 31st. And then once we're out, I think you're out for 5 years. So we want to do our due diligence. That has been brought to our attention. It's something that we want to explore. But we want to do our due diligence to see truly if it does benefit the district.
I'd recommend looking into it. Definitely don't rush into anything, but we did that about 10 years ago, and it saved a lot of money.
And predictability, though, with a self-funded plan.
We definitely have stop losses and stuff in place to help shelter that, though.
Yeah, we've been in touch with multiple districts that have provided some information on kind of the route that they've taken as it relates to, and there's been pros and cons coming from all sides of doing that, but we're definitely looking into that and doing our due diligence there.
Just such a larger line item these days that you've got to look into all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so our current proposed budget positioned the district to be at the 90 days, which was our goal of fund balance. So with that being said, we want to just have conversations around how much more we want to contribute towards our medical benefits and seek your guidance on, for the next presentation on what you would like to see. Currently, we contribute $275 a month, which is about $3,300 annually. So when we think about the contribution, just put it into perspective, for every $25 monthly or $300 annually that we contribute, it costs the district about $97,500. Or cumulative over 2 years, it would result in a decrease in our fund balance of roughly 2 days.
Thomas, can we look into seeing what the 2% and the 4% raises would have on their salary compared to what the increase of the medical expense would be?
Yeah, we looked at that and we saw the different ranges. So we looked at with the 4% for our staff and the 2%. Obviously, we want to look at really the staff that are impacted the most, that are kind of on the lower end of our pay and see. So if we contribute $25 to our support staff that are kind of on the lower end, it would result in no net benefit to them if it was just the $25. It would be a cost to them if we decided not to contribute anything. But great question.
On the projections, can you, with the enrollment continuing to decline every year on the projection, when are we going to get, I guess, updated demographic study information? I know you've been using a model that's been probably more accurate than what some of the demographers had shown us previously, at least in recent years. But I'd be, like for 26, showing another loss of 250. I feel like the property market has leveled off a little bit and changed in what's happened the last couple of years. I don't want to just blindly make the assumption that it's going to keep happening the same way. So I'd like to understand that better because that could have a big impact. And then also remind me what number we're using for scholars within these enrollment numbers.
And so right now we're using for scholars 270, and annually we do a plan on to continue to engage a demographer to update our numbers and seeing kind of the change. I do know that we are seeing pretty good enrollment as of right now, but not to a point where we feel that we could increase the enrollment for the current year in our model.
Okay.
But we're keeping a close eye.
But it could, for under current year, I think we've probably got better visibility, but going further than that out, it gets tougher. And then like our scholar application numbers, I know it looks like we might be able to go higher than that 270 number for next year with the application trends. And I know we approved up to 300, I believe.
That's
so
correct, yes.
all of those things can have an impact and could impact what we would choose to increase on the medical side, I think. So.
That's right.
So question, so we are at 89 days at the end of 26, and we're saying with this favorable insurance thing that surprised us, we would be at 90. And then we would potentially take the additional $25 on the medical, would take us down to 88. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And so that impact is over the 2-year period?
That is over the
Okay.
2 year, yes.
Okay. And would we, just to add on to Mark's question, so that lower tiered employee would just be kind of net break even. What about our teacher levels? That's still going to cost them. They're not going to see their raise, is that what
they're
we're
going to
saying?
see their raise, so it ranges from a minimum of, when we look at, if we do not, I'm sorry, I've got it here. So if we contribute the $25 per month, the annual increase from a minimum for our teachers, you see about a 921 at the low end, based off the years of experience. And on the high end, our most experienced teachers would still see about a $3,000 annual increase.
Another question, could you comment a little bit on the estimation that you have for the increased property value in 25 and 26 at the 7%?
So right now, we have it at the 7.5% based off of that 1 year of the outlier, what we've seen historically here in Lovejoy. So right now, we have it at 7.5%. We just recently, today, received some updated numbers from CollinCAD. I haven't had a chance to look at that, but I'll look at that and provide an update at the next board workshop to let you know if it's trending at the 7.5%.
Is that number as meaningful now if we're taking the recapture out of the equation?
Not necessarily, not anymore, because we're taking that up.
Make a big
It won't
difference.
have an impact anymore. That's correct.
Looking for guidance from us on the medical amount.
Yeah,
I would be, I think from what I've heard tonight, I'm supportive of the administration's recommendation for the additional $25. Welcome discussion.
Yeah, the only other comment I would have is this, the self-funded plan for December. Obviously, can't do it for this year, for this budget cycle, but going into the next one, I certainly would have to have a robust understanding of the pros and cons, having had experience as well. I'd like to see what it looks like so that we can determine whether or not we can improve on what we offer to the employees while maintaining or improving on the cost side of the equation as well, so.
No, absolutely. We can gather that information, and likewise, in my previous district, we were self-insured, so I'll reach out to them and ask for some guidance on how they've been able to maintain lower insurance premiums.
So I would be curious that you're looking at 25 monthly right now without having to crunch too many numbers. Is there a way to figure out like what's the most we could give that keeps us at a good
I
90
think
days?
it's the level of comfort that you have with as far as our fund balance. I mean, right now, we're at 90 days without the $25, and then if you think back when we first started, 76 days, we were really close to having to seek out other ways to get cash for payroll. So where's our comfort level is 86 days, 85 days, 80 days?
90.
90, so yeah, so if it's 90.
Is our track for, how confident are you on that FY '24 surplus number?
I believe there's going to be additional surplus in there. We actually met in cabinet and leadership today to kind of discuss and look at our budgets to really shore up and see kind of where we believe we're going to be. And we hope that we'll be able to bring forth in the budget workshop in the first week of June with an update on kind of where we believe we're going to end the year.
So that number could change within further impacts the projections, I guess. So that's where there could be, if we're talking about a few more scholars makes a difference, and we're talking about possible demographic things being wherever they end up, and then if the surplus is slightly different, all these things could be money to fund possible additional medical expenses.
Is there any particular timing? So if the board was supportive of the 25, and then later we are able to find additional money, is there a point in time where you can't enact that change, or?
Yeah, we have up until the June 17th meeting when we're going to approve the budget. And then again, we can always amend the budget as we learn more as we go into the new year.
Okay, thank you.
On your property and casualty insurance, is it only through TASB we look at, or do we go through other
Right,
methods?
at this point in time, we've only looked at TASB risk management. we have the ability to look and see if there's others. So we're going to look into that going forward.
Thank you for embracing the 3-year look. We're one of the only districts, I haven't seen another district look forward 3 years to make plans for this year. And consequently, their citizens don't really understand in my opinion, the full picture of what is coming down the pipe. We do that, and I appreciate that. We're in a good position this year, next year, and looking forward, being proactive with that planning. I think it's important, though, for the community to understand we're not shielding them from the pain that we deal with as far as looking forward and understanding what's happening with the economics of school finance and what's happening there. So trying to be transparent not only this year but looking forward and making decisions based on the whole picture and not just in a vacuum from one year to the next. So thanks for embracing that and creating that transparency for us so we can understand and proactively plan.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, next up.
Yep, I'm sorry, we're moving on to student nutrition budget. Sorry. So we just want to provide tonight where we are as it relates to our student nutrition budget. So when we're looking at the revenue side of our student nutrition, in order for us to bring forth a proposed balanced budget, we do need to look at increasing our meal price. So we're looking at increasing the meal price by roughly 25 cents per meal. Our director of student nutrition, Matt McCarty, who's here with us tonight, he did do kind of an analysis and looking around at other surrounding districts to see kind of where we were in comparison for our meal prices. We are on the high end of our meal prices compared to some of the other districts around us, but we do feel like we're lower than the Highland Park and I believe one other district as it relates to our meal price. What we're estimating is that we'll still have the same level, like percentage of student participation, but with the declining enrollment, we'll see like overall nominal participation a little bit lower. We won't have visibility into our federal reimbursement rates, so our primary schools and intermediate school are only schools that are on the federal meal program where we receive federal reimbursement for. So we won't know those rates, and those won't be available until sometime later this summer. There's no indications of a rate decrease, but any rate increase would have minimal impact because we do have a low population of free and reduced students. So as it relates to the expense side of our student nutrition budget, we are factoring a 2% payroll increase for all of our student nutrition employees. And then we also have a 2% inflationary increase on kind of the food costs there. We did incorporate in here the assumption of a $25 per month increase. That's a small minimal impact to the student nutrition budget. That's about $4,200 a year, so not a whole lot of wiggle room or impact there. We also built the budget to apply, and we continue to work towards seeing how we can apply the M&O indirect. So right now, we feel comfortable at applying a $50,000 indirect to student nutrition. But in order for us to get there with a decrease in revenue and then the 2% increase in food costs and payroll, we did have to eliminate 6 unfilled positions. It did leave us with, I believe, 4 unfilled positions, Matt? Yeah, so 4 unfilled positions. But with eliminating those 6 unfilled positions, we can accommodate the 2% payroll increase and then also contribute the $50,000 to the M&O side and still be able to bring forth a balanced budget. I'm happy to answer any questions as it relates to the student nutrition budget. Okay. So our timeline, we do have one more board workshop before our regular board meeting in June that will bring forth the budget adoption or the proposed budget for adoption and the adoption of the tax rate and also the compensation plan. Any questions?
Thomas, similar to last year, would you anticipate that we'll adopt one tax rate and then you'll wait and get the revised rate from the state and we'll adopt it again?
We will adopt the current tax rate in the June board meeting, and then the state will release in late July, early August And then it depends on if they release a rate that's higher than, which is probably not likely, higher than what we adopted in June, we'll have to do another public hearing for that. And then otherwise, if it's lower, then which is most likely, we'll just go ahead and approve. Yeah, it should be comparison, that's right.
All right, thank you, Thomas. Item 19, consider an act on setting a date for a public hearing to discuss budget and proposed tax rate for 24 and 25. Mr. Willman?
Okay, so the first step in adopting the budget is proposing a property tax rate for Lovejoy ISD for next fiscal year, and to set the date for the public hearing. We publish this notice along with calculations and other disclosures required by the truth in taxation regulations. We typically adopt, as we mentioned, the budget on the date of the hearing in accordance with timelines set out by the state. So the previous question by Julie, we will adopt the current tax rate during this meeting. So that we may proceed with this prescribed process and meet the calendar requirements, it is the recommendation of the administration that the board approve and publish the date of June 17th, 2024 for the public hearing to discuss the 24-25 budget and proposed tax rate.
So moved as proposed.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Move Jason. Second, Jeff Rodriguez. All right, item 20, Capital Planning Committee update, Mr. Percival and Mr. Willman.
So tonight, I'd like to provide a brief update in our committee's work throughout the spring. As you guys recall, we kicked off our work together in January, and we've done monthly meetings throughout the spring semester. The month of May was an exception. We actually had 2 meetings. We had one meeting, which was our 5th meeting on May 7th. And during that meeting, we met over at Willow Springs Middle School. We took a tour of the physical facility. We did a quick virtual tour of our transportation facility, which was not really virtual, but I called it virtual anyway. They were just static photos. But through that process, the committee members, like we've done at each facility, filled out a SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and had some discussion about that process. And then on May 14th, that was our 6th and final meeting of the semester. We had that one back here at LCDC cafeteria. And through that night, we heard from district directors and experts within different content areas that really kind of highlighted some areas that they've identified as being critical, things that need to be addressed, things that need to be considered, either by replacement or consideration for attention. And through that, our committee went through and did 2 different types of gallery walks. So the first gallery walk I'm going to show you here, this was comprised over on one side of the cafeteria, and these are items that they jotted down once they heard the different experts in the room that were internally generated. They had a priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3. And so we'll have those all compiled and make sure that we communicate that out to you guys and to the committee. And we had some discussion around those. And then we had on the other side, we had some blown up versions of compiled SWOTs that they had completed for each location that we had toured throughout the spring. And they had an opportunity to go through and place green dots on those items that really spoke to them and feel like we need to have some further discussion around. And so again, we'll have we'll have all those compiled, and we'll share that out so that you guys can kind of see a collection of the work and input that was gathered throughout the spring semester. And then just real quick, kind of the timeline, and some of this has already happened, like for instance, the RFQ that went out for architectural services, that happened in the month of April. The interview process for those that submitted applications happened early this month. And so the goal would be to have a recommendation, hopefully by June, for us to engage as a district with an architect for their services. We're going to share the committee's input that we gathered throughout the spring semester with that architect so that they can use that to kind of help guide our process when we reconvene in the fall. But this summer, there are going to be some critical systems and areas that we need to address. And so when we do reconvene in the fall, we'll share out progress on those projects with the Capital Planning Committee. We'll also identify and look into some areas, schools and facilities that may be something that we want to align, or something that aligns with the vision of the learning environments that Lovejoy wants to be as we move forward and consider the next, not just 5 to 10 years, but really that long range and considering the long range facility plan and associated costs that will be derived from whatever that plan looks like. And then also considering funding sources to help, attack the associated costs with whatever that long range facility plan ends up being. But it's been a really great semester, and the last slide here that I wanted to show, this was the committee on that final meeting of the semester, and I did want to recognize and thank them for their commitment. We put in a lot of hours throughout the spring, and you guys know, because you're parents, your community members, and you know how busy spring can be, how busy spring is. And to have 2 of these meetings in May was quite a feat, but participation was phenomenal. They really did commit to the process. They committed to the team, and they're obviously committed to the district, so we just want to publicly thank them. So, any questions that you guys have for me or in relation to the committee?
No, but participating in some of the meetings, appreciate the process and the ability to truly allow the parents to be involved, have a say, and it not be a canned process that was ultimately not really taking the input. So I appreciate the legitimacy of the process and the ability to capture legitimate and good feedback. So thanks for that.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for your support.
Barrett, for the next item, consider an act on the request for qualifications for architectural services. I want to abstain from discussion and voting because I have a conflict of interest as my business works in the K through 12 construction market.
No problem. Thank you for calling that out. Just let the record note that Mr. Wheelis will be abstaining from the discussion and voting. Item 21. Item 21 is to consider an act on the request for qualification RFQ for architecture services. Mr. Willman.
Good evening. So as Mr. Percival shared in his update, we did engage in the process of the RFQ, so request for qualifications for architecture services. So in order for us to hit the ground running come the fall, we wanted to get out ahead of this and engage in this to identify an architect that can help us guide us through this process in the fall. So as Mr. Percival shared, we released the RFQ on Monday, April 15th, and responses were due on Tuesday, April 30th. There were a total of 3 submissions in our e-bid system, and we did not receive any hand copies. All firms were evaluated using the criteria published in the RFQ and interviewed by the selection committee. The evaluation criteria included corporate background and experience, key project personnel, financial qualifications, previous experience with LISD and other North Texas school districts, project management plan, and bond planning and communication service process. So the firms that the selection committee, we ranked them in the order of first VLK Architects, second Corrigan Associates, and then third PBK. The process right now is that we're just identifying based off of qualifications only, and just ranking them based off of the different criteria. Once the board approves it, then we'll take it to the next step to then engage in conversation with the first one, VLK, as far as terms and conditions associated with the services that we're seeking for this process, and then we'll establish at that point the cost for their services. And to Mr. Percival's point, we'll bring back in June kind of those cost estimates for you to approve the cost in June. So at this time, it's a recommendation of the administration that the board approve the administration's ranking of the architects.
So cost was not a consideration in the ranking? Is that my
Cost was not a
understanding?
consideration. It cannot be part of when it's just qualifications at this point. So if we go down the list, so when we have conversations with BLK, if we're not able to agree on a cost estimate in the services, then we stop and go on to the next one.
How are you considering if the cost is reasonable for rank number 1 if you're not comparing it against the other 2 at that stage of the process?
Yeah, great question. It's just the process at which we worked with our attorney to figure out what the process should look like. And it's just, we were not able to, as part of the process, to ask for cost as far as comparison in the process.
And just a question on the scope of their services. So in addition to them helping us with the long-range facility plan and costing all of that out, will that also include a recommendation for how we would deploy the $9.5 million that we just sold?
They would help us cost out projects associated with the $9.5 million, but as part of the committee, the last meeting of the committee, they helped us identify some areas they would like for us to explore. So the architect would help us as far as the design and the costing out of those key items that were identified during that meeting.
Those items will come to the board for approval as they are identified and
Yes,
costed?
ma'am.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I want to go back for a minute. The cost associated with the services combined with the qualifications, why can't we get cost proposals from each of these 3 in conjunction with that?
Because I believe as part of a TEA code that when it comes to architectural services and certain services, that you have to base solely based off of qualifications and not cost comparison. So we're doing the ranking solely based on their qualifications, based off the criteria that we set forth.
So that's a law, a rule, or I don't know what a THO is.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. That's counterintuitive to my thoughts around good business, but
And Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, but this would be brought back before there was formal engagement, and the cost would be included for consideration at
That's
that
correct.
time.
Yes.
There'd be the ability for that to be included.
That's correct, yes.
So I understand we'll get to approve or not once we know what we're being asked, what the cost is, but we're not going to be able to compare it against the other 2 as part of that process.
okay.
Move to approve the ranking from the process.
So move Jason James.
Second.
Second Marvin Bobo. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right. Thank you, Thomas, for that information. Item 22, cabinet reports.
So we recently had our pre-K graduation, and we graduated 60 rising kindergartners, and this was the first year we had it over at the high school auditorium. And it was quite an event, and we have grown by 20 students, so this class is 20 students more than in the past. And they performed, and then they went and changed into their cap and gown, and they did the processional, and then they accepted their diploma, and we had a wonderful slideshow that for each student on what they wanted to be when they grew up. And we had firemen, and we had doctors, and we also had teachers, but my favorite one was she wanted to be the boss. So it was really a fun night celebrating our kiddos that evening. So, and then also went over the day before to the auditorium at the high school. They went on their first field trip and rode a school bus, many of them for the first time, to practice there at the auditorium. And after they finished, they got to go on the Leopard football field. So this was a really great day for them. It was raining. They didn't really care. But we thought this was just a really great picture to share with you. So this is the class of 2037. So.
Dr. Tinsley, you didn't share that we also had one pre-K graduate that was telling the other pre-K graduates, and mind you, this is over a week ago, that they didn't have to go to school tomorrow. Because they had graduated. So I thought senioritis only happened when you were a senior in high school, but apparently not. And then when they did the recessional, we played some celebratory music, and about 4 of them started going like this.
They were having a good
So
time.
I don't
They
know,
were
everybody,
not-
look out for the class of 2037.
Yeah, well, there were some very proud parents that night, so.
I love that story. Dr. Tinsley, I have one completely unrelated question. Do you have any early news on STAR test results?
No, we will have those. We won't even get preliminary until later this month. So we are planning to hopefully bring that forward to you at the June board meeting, along with MAP growth results as well, too.
So in the finance updates, just the normal monthly updates on our tax collection. So we can see here that through the end of April, we still have roughly about $903,000 in tax collection. That's both the INS and the M&O side. But I really wanted to share my appreciation for all the hard work that our student nutrition staff does each and every day. On Friday, May 3rd, was our School Lunch Hero Day, where we celebrated our staff, our amazing student nutrition leadership team led by Matt McCarty, and then his nutrition coordinator, Juliana Ellendry. Did I say that right? Ellendry? And his admin assistant, Elizabeth Farabee. They visited each campus and provided all of our staff with a little surprise. So you can see here, this is our secondary staff. The top is our high school, and then Willow Spring at the bottom. So they each received the little surprise, the red camel polar cup or polar camel cups. Inside was some sweet treats. And also they were very thoughtful and mindful that they wanted to ensure that they weren't sharing the cups and mistaking whose cup it is. Since they all look the same, they had their name imprinted on it as well. And then here is just our primary school, so Sloan Creek on the left, Puster at the top, and Hart at the bottom. I just wanted to share how grateful that I am of our team and what they do each and every day, and it was a lot of fun to go out with Matt and celebrate them on this day.
And to continue the celebrations, we have been out on campuses celebrating our substitutes or guest educators. So we have 11, I believe, guest educators that have substituted more than 100 days this year. So last year, we had, I think, about 7 or 8, but this year we've almost doubled that. So we're super, super excited about that. And then most campuses worked. Eileen Yoder, she's been at every campus in this district, all 6 of them. And then most special education assignments went to Michelle McLean, and we appreciate her doing that and all the work they do. We do not give them enough credit because they do. They fill in for our teachers when we need them, and we just truly appreciate them. And it was just nice to be on campus and recognize them, and a little surprise for them too.
I just want to say thank you, Anna. I've just watched how hard you've worked to try to recruit and train guest educators over the last couple of years, and it's a part of HR that I don't know that I fully understood or appreciated.
Yes.
How much you work to make sure that when our teachers need to take a day, that there is a qualified person
in there
that can take care of our kids. So
And
thank you.
You are welcome, and also apply here. There's a little QR code there, so I put that on everything. So if you want to apply for any of our openings, nutrition, anything, please do.
Just a quick update for our district support services. Our transportation department and team have been planning and preparing for, so tomorrow, for you guys that don't know, is early release for the high school. So we'll do early release at the high school Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all campuses on Friday. And so there's lots of opportunity there for our transportation team to get out of the box and have some creative logistics. Typically, we do 2 tiers on a normal day where we cluster age groups together. On early release days where you have high school only, it's essentially a 3-tier day for our drivers in the PM. And so with that, again, comes some logistical opportunity. And so they've been getting geared up for that. We've got a game plan, and we're ready for tomorrow. It's a little crazy to think that we're starting the last week of school. It seems like we just kicked off the first week. So we're gearing up for that. Safety and security wise, we just recently had this past week our spring committee meeting with our district safety and security committee. And Mr. Littlefield covered some updates throughout the spring on current projects and priorities as we look into the summer and look at the fall as well. So he shared those updates. Thankful for that committee. We've got some really vested people that get together 3 times a year to discuss those topics. And then our maintenance, grounds, and custodial are really getting geared up for their summer work schedule and scopes of work. Now that we'll have some opportunity to get in, do some deep cleaning, and maintain some of our areas that we weren't able to just because they've been occupied by teaching and learning. So that is my update for district support services. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, so going to share our update for student services. And this week, we have graduation on Saturday, full of senior events, full of fun, and love how we're working really hard to honor our seniors and finish the year the right way. Today, we started with senior celebration, which encompassed senior signing day and then a wonderful senior tailgate after that. We're looking forward to 380 graduates walking the stage on May 25th at the Allen Event Center. The students show up at 8:30 back of house. The doors open at 9, and the graduation starts at 10 a.m. So we're really looking forward to that. Couple updates here from Fine Arts. We listed some really exciting events that have happened regarding Fine Arts performances. One thing from that list on the left that I really want to highlight is our Fine Arts Signing Day. We had 17 students getting to come up to the stage on the auditorium, and their directors got to outline their post-secondary plans, and we got to celebrate them. It went really well, and then we had a reception out in the foyer area. Athletics updates. It has been a really fun spring. We continue to do well on things like the Lone Star Cup and adding different district, regional area, and of course some state finishes. Tennis district champions, softball area champions, girls track and field, who you saw tonight, state runner-up, and their 4x4 almost caught Lancaster right at the end. And then football had a chance to have the spring game, I believe, last Wednesday, and did really well. Got to see Coach Dodge and some of our new coaches and players really have the camaraderie and get to show off their hard work at Leopard Stadium. And then, of course, baseball update. Recently had a no-hitter pitched in Game 3. We were up against it in Game 2 in bottom of the ninth, at a home run to win, and then came back the next day, pitched a no-hitter, and then now we play Frisco at McKinney at 7:30 on Thursday and Friday, and if needed, on Saturday we'll play them at 5. And lastly, you saw UIL Academics as well. Did a really nice job, and the whole computer science team went down to state and got 5th. We had a couple individual state championships that you saw tonight, and I wanted to end by talking about, I'm checking the data, but it looks like Lovejoy High School over the last 5 years has given a ton of AP exams, but We've never crossed that 2,000 threshold, and so 2,370 AP exams were given over the last 2 weeks at Lovejoy High School. I think we're going to double check it, but I think that's 500 more than last year. Mhm. Questions?
And our graduating class this year is actually a bit smaller.
Right. That's right. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Cordell.
Thank you. We have 3.5 precious days of school left, and that is very hard to believe. It has been a wonderful school year. I was asked the other day by a parent what the most unique part of being a superintendent is, and the most unique part is the way you can just see and feel all the people that are helping make the experiences for the students happen. And so I want to thank everybody that's in here, everybody that's at home, our teachers, our educators, our staff, our parents, and the students themselves, because it's everybody coming together that makes all of this happen. And it is a precious privilege to get to be a part of it. And it would not happen if we didn't have so many people in Lovejoy that were so dedicated to our students. I'm so excited about graduation on Saturday. It's definitely a bittersweet event. I do not have my graduation speech written yet because every time I think about it, I start to cry because we really like these kids and are going to miss them terribly. They're so much fun to be around, and I've gotten to see them grow and develop over just over 3 years. And it is unbelievable, the people that they are. As we were sharing all the accolades and accomplishments, you all who were here at the beginning of the meeting got to see those as well, but that is not the story. I mean, they have achieved more excellence than any graduating class that I have ever had the privilege to being around. However, who they are as people and the attributes of just kindness and hard work and the pursuit of excellence in all areas of their life and the support of excellence in others is like nothing I have ever seen. And we're more proud of that than all of the ribbons and the medals and the trophies. It has really been remarkable to see them grow and develop, and we can't wait to celebrate them as a community on Saturday. And just thank you to everyone who has made this happen, and we are going to finish strong.
Thank you, Ms. Cordell. Item 24, public comments related to non-agenda items. No comments this evening. With that, we would be adjourned.